The flight attendants are making announcements saying, this is a full flight. Every middle seat is taken. Grab that middle seat you see that's empty. But my seat is empty, but not actually available.
Sorry, but I think the price you pay at the airport should be according to BMI. I think things have gone like so far and we're so accommodating, which is really genuinely so unfair to everyone else around you.
Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today we are going to be talking about Southwest Airlines and their recent policy changes that are going to be coming up that is having a lot of people kind of confused and a little upset, as well as like mainly it has people that are in the kind of fat activism space up in arms, and there's been a lot of back and forth. Southwest has been historically one of the more inclusive airlines when it comes to passengers of size. They have a lot of policies in place that really help people. One of the biggest things is that they are, at least in the US, from what I understand, one of the biggest airlines that don't do like the assigned seating. So for me, I like to fly JetBlue most of the time. It's just easier from Boston. It's like the most common airline here. At least it feels like it is. And when you fly JetBlue, when you order your ticket online, or I do it through my phone, I know a lot of people are like, I never order airline tickets on my phone. I always do it on the computer. I do it on my phone, and I use the app, and you click what seat you want, and then you go through the whole process and you purchase your seat, right? With Southwest, which is funny because they're very popular in San Diego, which is where I originally am from. You just kind of show up and then boarding starts and everyone gets in line and you just try and get your seat, right? You don't have an assigned seat. So if you're someone that really doesn't want a middle seat, you have to be early in the boarding to make sure you don't get that that middle seat. And so a lot of airlines, they'll have a thing where a lot of times it's kind of annoying, but they'll upcharge a little bit for like an aisle seat or a window seat, and the middle seats almost never end up getting upcharged, right? But Southwest has kind of been talking about changing their policy to, for lack of a better term, it's going to fit what most of the other airlines in the US are doing, where you have to reserve and all like the kind of normal stuff. They're going to be a little bit less unorthodox, I guess it seems, with their boarding. But that has had a lot of people in the fat activism space and health at every size space kind of upset, because it makes them feel very unsure about their future with Southwest and how that is going to feel for them. So we're going to go get into some different TikToks as well as some different posts from people in the fat activism space. But the first thing that I wanted to go over are some TikToks where it's people kind of explaining their experience flying Southwest and how it is as being someone that is in, that is a plus size individual. And this is kind of like how things are currently working with Southwest versus, we don't know exactly. And that's the biggest issue. We don't know exactly what things are going to look like in the future. So this is currently kind of how someone that is a plus sized individual flies with Southwest. So this is coming from the TikTok account Fly for a Ginger. And this was uploaded in, it looks like August of last year, right? So this is, how it was before the changes are happening. These changes haven't happened yet. And so again, this is still kind of how it works.
With an extra seat for free with Southwest customer of size policy. First option is to purchase an additional seat ahead of time and call after the flight to get it refunded.
So what she said right there, right? So the first option, and I feel like this is the option that makes the most sense. Obviously, it's not going to be viable for everyone because, paying for two seats is not always going to be possible for every single person. But it definitely makes sure that you're not going to have to deal with not getting that extra seat and that kind of embarrassment, right? And so, you buy the two seats, and then when you're done with the flight, you get it refunded afterwards.
You'll do this by purchasing an additional ticket that's almost identical to the first one, but you add XS in the middle name to denote it's an extra seat. You could also call customer service to have them book the tickets for you. The second option is to ask a customer service agent for an additional seat once you're at your departure gate. You'll run the risk of the flight being full.
So basically what that is right, you purchase one seat, and then when you get to the departure desk, you ask, oh, I'm going to need an extra seat because I'm, the customer of size policy. Definitely would, I guess I understand if you don't have the money to purchase a seat just in general that this would work, but it definitely, like, if you're really, really, really worried about, having an extra seat next to you because you don't feel like it will work if you don't have that, I don't see why you would employ this strategy other than you literally can't afford, the extra price for the extra ticket, right?
For this one, but it won't cost you anything out of pocket. Happy and comfortable flying.
So that's the first way. And then this is another TikTok. This is coming from Samira. We've actually talked about Samira before, but this is in response to a comment that she got, right? So how does it work in terms of making sure someone doesn't sit beside you? And so it goes on to say boarding with Southwest customer of size policy.
Do you have the belt extenders up here? Yep. And then secondly, how do I let people know that I have an extra seat next to me? Oh, a little sign.
So this is, I'm not entirely sure. It seems like this is without paying for this second seat. And because she doesn't have that ticket, that will be, because it looked like in the first one, right, they had the ticket they put down in the middle. This one, it doesn't seem like she has the ticket, right? So she's just kind of, it seems like hoping that there's not going to be someone that would sit next to her. I don't know exactly. And I am curious. I assume that she probably talked to the people up at the front at the gate and said, hey, I'm going to need an extra seat next to me. And they probably looked and was like, okay, the flight's not completely full, so there will be a couple extra seats. So that's fine. But I imagine if the flight is completely full, which absolutely happens if you fly often, that this, that could be a problem. And so I don't know. The anxiety that I would feel if I was like one of a bigger person and I was just kind of hoping that I wouldn't be able to handle it. I don't think I'd be able to do it.
Okay, so we are currently on the plane. We get to pick any seat we want. I want this one. So we have chosen our row, and this is the sign. Do not occupy. It's going next to me in my seat. Incorrect. Sheila did not have to drive up that mountain. All she had to do was fly Southwest.
And so, that's kind of how it works. And it was interesting. I was reading the comments on the side, right? It says, a little sign gives me Key and Peele vibes when they mention continental breakfast. Yeah. And then I like that there was one right here, right? It says, I like that the sign is unspecific and is less likely to open you up to mean comments. They'll probably use the same sign if the chair is broken. So most people would probably assume it's that, right? And so, I don't disagree with that completely. Obviously I have my own thoughts on this, but Southwest is a company that wants to make money, right? And they seem to have decided that the way that they are boarding and the way things are working for them is no longer the most optimal way. And so they decided to kind of make some changes, and people are kind of up in arms about that. So the changes that actually happened, I think the best way is to read it from this article. So this is from Yahoo Life. We're not going to read the first part because it's just talking about like customer loyalty rewards, boring stuff that doesn't really matter. But this is what's interesting, right? So it goes on to say here, Southwest already announced this month that it would be ditching its longtime bag policy, charging passengers for checked bags for the first time in 50 years, which I do think is lame because it's freaking expensive. All the bag fees, it's crazy. But with the new updates, only passengers who purchase business select fares will get 2 free checked bags, while all other fares will be charged a fee for checked bags. If you don't know, most of the time when you fly, you get a personal item, which like when I fly, that'll usually be like a backpack, and then you can either check a bag, which most of the time will be free. Most airlines, unless it's like a super discount like Spirit Airlines, they charge you for everything. But like most of them, like American and JetBlue, you get like a carry-on free. But then the second one, right, you'd have to charge for. And so that's kind of what they're talking about here. So apparently you used to get 2 check bags for free before. But while all other charge a fee for check bags, another major change, and this is the big one, was announced back in July 2024 when the Dallas-based airline revealed it would be switching to assigned seating after offering passengers the ability to choose their own seating for decades. So this is, I think, the one that is most, kind of what has people the most up in arms about things, right? And then so I also wanted to read this Southwest. This is from Southwest. This is currently on their website, right? This is talking about the customer of size policies, right? So what is your policy for customer side? We've had a long-standing policy designed to meet the seating needs of customers who require more than one seat. And then it goes on to say, note, any customer traveling on an itinerary that includes a partner carrier and who cannot be safely accommodated in a single seat will be required to purchase an additional non-refundable seat. So basically, if you have a connecting flight that ends up not being Southwest, you're going to have to pay for that extra seat on that flight, right? So that's what they're saying there. Customers who encroach upon any part of the neighboring seats may proactively purchase the needed number of seats prior to travel to ensure the additional seat is available. The armrest is considered to be the definitive boundary between seats. You may review information about the width of passenger seats, and then Southwest will refund the extra seat purchased upon request after travel is complete. Please request your refund. An additional seat purchased by a customer traveling on an itinerary that includes a partner carrier is non-refundable. Again, saying what we were talking about. The purchase of additional seats serves as a notification of a special seating request and helps us ensure we can accommodate all customers on the flight. Most importantly, it ensures that all customers on board have access to safe and comfortable seating. You may submit a request for a refund for the cost of additional seating after travel. Honestly, reading this, in my opinion, is what makes the most sense, right? If you know that you're going to need an extra seat, purchase the extra seat, and then you'll get a refund after the fact. Like, does it end up being a little bit of a hassle for you? Maybe, but I think like if it makes it so you're not super stressed out and super worried about, getting on a flight and not being able to fit or whatever, or bothering the person next to you, I think that's, in my opinion, this is the thing that makes the most sense to me, right? If you choose to purchase an extra seat, see a customer service agent at the gate to obtain a seat reserve document for the additional seat purchase. You'll place the seat reserve document on the adjoining seat. You may pre-board to select the available seats that best meet your needs, or you may board with your original boarding group and position. Once on board, if necessary, please request a seatbelt extension from our flight attendant. Customers may not purchase more than one seat for the sole purpose of keeping the seat next to the customer empty, which is funny because that's kind of what purchasing the extra seat for someone that's of size does. But, I wonder what the definition of like, you're not big enough to need this. I guess if you're not encroaching on the seat next to you, I don't know. If you prefer not to purchase an additional seat in advance, discuss your seating needs with the customer service agent at the departure gate. If it's determined that a second seat is needed, you'll be accommodated with a complimentary additional seat. So basically, if you don't want to purchase the extra seat or you don't have the money, they'll try and figure it out. But again, I feel like that would be really difficult if you don't know if the flight is super full. I think that it would be insane, in my opinion, if they were like, oh yeah, we're just going to kick someone off so you can have this extra seat. That doesn't really seem fair, obviously, to that person that would end up getting kicked off. Again, I don't know how often that is happening, but even so, that is their policy right now. And people are very worried about that changing because of the, assigned seating and how things are just going to be different. Because again, like with Southwest, you would just kind of show up and then, if you had the accommodations, they would let you get on early, right? And you'd be able to figure that all out. And so with the assigned seating, it just kind of throws everything up into, well, what is going to happen now? And people that are very anti this change and that are very, pro fat acceptance or whatever, they are pretty upset about that. And that's what we're going to talk about now. This first thing that we're going to go over is coming from NAFA, or the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance. We've talked about them before. It's really interesting reading this statement because, again, Southwest is the most inclusive and helpful for people that are larger and flying, right? And so keep that in mind. Like, this has been a company that has tried to help this community as much as possible. And even with this change, it seems that there's a lot of people that are upset about it. So let's go ahead and read this. So NAFA statement on Southwest Airlines policy changes. Every traveler of every size and ability deserves access and reasonable accommodation in air travel. I agree with that. This matters to millions of larger and disabled passengers and potential passengers. It also matters to millions of people who we travel with, travel for, and travel to. And so I think for me, the biggest thing is obviously millions of larger and disabled people. So it's like basically lumping being larger in the same category as being disabled. We've talked about this a million times. I disagree with that, but moving on. For years, Southwest Airlines has enjoyed a reputation as one of the most accessible airlines in the industry, especially for larger-bodied people. On July 25th, Southwest Airlines announced major changes, including eliminating open seating in 2025 and reconfiguring planes for more legroom in some rows. The Southwest customer of size policy is the most clear and affordable procedure in the air travel industry for those who need more space than a standard economy seat. Open seating has been key to the success of the customer of size policy. So they believe that open seating is the key to the success of the customer of size policy. So that's why they're so upset about it changing, right? Allowing customer of size to pre-board and select 2 adjoining seats ensures that passengers are able to choose seating in a part of the plane that is safer and more accessible. So I mean, maybe I just don't understand, but whenever I'm choosing a seat on a flight, before I am there, you can see the seats that are available, and that, you know, I don't know. Again, it's a little weird, but navigating narrow airplane aisles and moving to the back of the plane can be difficult or even impossible for some bigger people and disabled people, especially when many other customers have already boarded the aircraft. While most airlines allow pre-boarding for customers with special needs, pre-assigned seats that are further into the plane complicate this process for fat people and disabled people. So what they're saying now is that they don't only want you to be able to choose your own seat, but they want you to be able to get on early and choose your own seat, and the seat has to be at the front of the plane because they don't want it to be in the back of the plane, because if it's in the back of the plane, it might be a little bit too difficult. I understand, so I get that, but at the same time, if you order a flight, you order a seat, and you get it early enough, there will be seats at the front of the plane that you can choose. Like for me, I know, because I am not the best at planning, that sometimes, you know, when I finally end up buying my flight, oh great, there's only middle seats left. Awesome, right? Oh great, all the seats are kind of at the back of the plane. But like if I do it and I'm smart and I order it sooner rather than later, there will be more seats at the front of the plane, all of that stuff, right? And so it's like, I don't know, like it's just weird because I'm someone that flies relatively often, and I can understand the problems, but I feel like with just some planning, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Okay. Southwest has earned a reputation for being more accommodating than its competitors in this way. If Southwest does not create procedures that account for the need of customers of size and disabled people to arrange their seating near the front of the cabin, accessibilities for customers of size and disabled people will disproportionately disappointingly limited by the new assigned seating. So it just, again, I can understand this for disabled people. This all makes sense. But like, then just like, it's just weird because it feels like the people of size are just kind of like thrown in there as well. Like, oh yeah, these people too. I don't know. Because again, the biggest thing, I've said this a million times, you guys know this, right? But I disagree that your size is inherently the same as being disabled. I think that your size is something that you can change. And I believe if it's significantly limiting you in all of these different ways, then that's something that you should focus on, and you could improve the quality of your life so much, you know? And it's like, it is so worth it to put in that effort. But instead, it seems like a lot of times this effort is put into just trying to make everything easier and like make it so you don't have to make these changes, when I think making these changes could be the thing that makes your life worth living, right? It's the thing that it could be the thing that makes your life like you feel like you're living instead of just existing, right? And so that's obviously where I disagree. But I digress. Southwest has not indicated any changes to customer size in any announcements or statements. So it's literally they're saying they haven't said that they're going to change anything, but they're still mad. However, the airline has yet to address how the changes to procedures and planes will impact those travelers who have already dealt with inaccessibility, inconvenience, and hostility in air travel. Larger customers, disabled customers, and those who need support in both areas are deeply concerned that Southwest has made no mention of how the change to their procedure will impact important accommodation that has helped these communities trust Southwest for many years. NAAFA urges Southwest Airlines to immediately take the following actions. So this is what they want them to do, right? Assess the impacts of all the seating and boarding procedure changes on customers of size and disabled passengers, and publicly address how airline plans to mitigate these impacts and ensure accessible travel. Partner with the NAAFA and other organizations that represent plus size and disabled passengers to ensure these communities' expertise and experience are included in the development best practice. I just love that it's like, we demand you work with us. It's just like, wow, that seems convenient. Commit to continuing customer of size and other accessibility policies that ensure accommodations equal to or greater than existing policies. And then so it goes on to say, we really think they should do this, basically. And so that's their kind of policy changes that they want. Now I want to share with you, this is the director of the NAAFA that we were just talking about. Her name is Tigress, and she goes on to kind of explain what we were just reading.
Hello, I'm Tigress. I'm the Executive Director of NAFA, the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance. And I'm on my way home from the Impact Conference where I was talking to college students about size discrimination. And of course I'm flying Southwest because I do whenever I can because of their customer of size policy. But one of the stressful things about customer size is that when you are on a full flight and you've done everything you were supposed to do to reserve an extra seat next to you, the flight attendants are making announcements saying, this is a full flight. Every middle seat is taken. Grab that middle seat you see that's empty.
So now it's interesting because now she's almost saying, like, complaining about the fact that Southwest is like, hey, the seats are full. Take the seat that is open that you see. And it's like, dude, you can't expect them to not make announcements that, because when you're boarding, I don't know how many of you, but it can be unbelievably annoying when it takes forever. And a lot of times when boarding takes forever, it's because people are walking past seats that they should take because they're like, oh, I'll find a better one. I'll find a better one. I'll find a better one. And then they don't end up finding a better one. And then maybe they have to go back, and it's a nightmare, right? And so they're trying to make boarding go as smooth as possible and get things done as fast as possible. Flying is not fun. I don't know anyone that really enjoys it. Some people don't mind it as much as others, but it's not a fun experience. And I'm sure that flight attendants have a million things that they're going through. And so they're just trying to get it done as fast as possible, because one of the biggest things is, right, you're on a time crunch. Your flight is supposed to take off at this time, land at this time. And you can't just be like, oh, lollygagging and make things take forever. Like, they're trying to tell people, sit down. There's no more, like, it's only middle seats. Find a middle seat, sit down in the middle seat. And she's like complaining about that. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just annoying to me.
Empty, but not actually available. Luckily on this flight, I have a really great row mate who is helping explain to people as they go by and ask for my seat that it's already reserved. And I really appreciate her help. And this is one of the things that a lot of people felt excited about when Southwest announced that they were going to start doing assigned seating. Now, that seat will be assigned to me. Nobody else will be able to ask for it. This is going to be great. But the problem is, part of how customer size works is by you being able to get on the plane and choose two seats together. Once seats start to be assigned, there may not be a second seat available when you book your ticket. And we need to know what Southwest is going to do about that. How are they going to prepare for this? What procedures are they going to put in place to make sure that customer size still works? So if you agree that Southwest should meet with us to talk about their customer size policy, please go to naf.org and sign our petition.
So she's talking about how there's a petition, and it's interesting, right? Because she's talking about how, there might not be two seats when you book. But I don't know. Maybe this is really terrible of me to feel, but I think that if you are expecting like accommodations and you are expecting these airlines to, have a policy in place just for you, I think the least that you can do is make sure that you are booking these flights enough in advance to where you can make sure that works for you. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a very normal expectation. Instead, it's like, I want to be able to book whenever, and I want to be able to just, get the seat next to me whenever. I don't know. It just feels like clearly this is the way that things are going when it comes to boarding, and like pretty much every single major airline is doing it this way, where you assign your seat, which I personally like a lot more. I like being able to choose my seat, so I know that I'm not going to be getting a middle seat, and I'll pay an extra whatever it is, $15, sometimes it's 20, 30, whatever dollars, if like I can just pay for one that I know for sure is going to be on an aisle or whatever, right? I know for a fact, and I don't have to worry about the boarding thing. It's much easier for me personally, right? And so clearly it seems that most people want it that way, right? Most people like it that way, and they don't like the whole Southwest like scrambling to the gate, trying to be the first one that gets to the boarding, right? You don't have to worry. You can relax when the boarding is happening. And then when it's your time to go, you know you're going to have your seat, and there you go, right? And so it's very interesting, because it seems that these people feel like it is some huge problem, when in reality, this is how it works for most people. I think more than anything, I am just really sad that Jae Bae is currently, not accessible to get a statement from, because I'm sure that she would have a lot to say about this current situation for sure. But I wanted to talk about what this type of mentality and this type of thinking and this type of, it really does feel like, I deserve the world. I deserve everything, and I don't want anything to inconvenience me. I think that a lot of times breeds some very negative ways of thinking, in my opinion. And that leads me to this TikTok, which was pretty popular. A lot of people were talking about it when it first came out. And this comes from the account Emily Saves America. And this is, in my opinion,
I'm sorry, but I think
the opposite of what we just saw. And I feel like a lot of times this stuff exists because of the ridiculousness of, the NAAFA and other people like that, right? And so this is someone that would probably very much so agree with, like, they would love the customer size policy to go away completely, and they would say, I have no problem with that, right? And so this is like the antithesis of that. And this is, it's from Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills. What a surprise. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's play and see what she has to say.
I think the price you pay at the airport should be according to BMI. I think things have gone like so far, and we're so accommodating, which is really genuinely so unfair to everyone else around you. And I'm at the point where I'm like, so if my bag, as someone who's under...
So she thinks that your BMI should be, so if you're larger, you should have to pay more for your seat, right?
Underweight, according to BMI, slay. If my bag is 1 pound
and she's excited about being underweight, that's great.
Overweight, I have to pay $100. Yet the cast of the new TLC doesn't have to pay, and they'll accommodate them with extra seats. Like, I'm sorry, how is that fair? Anyways, click the link in my bio for.
And then she promotes some random healthcare thing. But again, it just breeds that type of thinking, which again, it's like, it feels like you are either on that side or you're on this side, when in reality, I think most people kind of sit in the middle. I think that most people can understand, right? Flying is not the most comfortable thing. The seats are not that big. At least for me, I can understand why someone would want an extra seat. And like I said at the start of this video, I see the Southwest policy of like buying the extra seat, so it's paid for, and then you get refunded afterwards. I don't know. For me, that makes sense. I don't know. Like, that makes sense to me. I think it works. Yeah. Does it suck that you have to pay a little bit more? Yes. But at the same time, like, at least you don't have to be stressed out about it. And then with the assigned seating, again, I don't understand why this is such a big deal, because this is so common with the other airlines. It's just Southwest really that does it this way. And so it's just bizarre to me that it's like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing it. It's like, what do you mean? They're doing what everyone else is doing. Like, if you order your seat soon, like early enough, you will be able to find 2 seats together. I do it all the time when I travel. It's not a problem. I've never had to be like, oh man, I have to get a seat that's like way far away from me, because unless you're waiting until like the day of the flight, maybe, there's always going to be a middle seat. I'm telling you right now, there's almost always going to be a middle seat you can choose, right? And so if you're needing a seat next to you, almost always you're either going to choose an aisle or the window, and then you can choose the middle seat, which will almost always be available, right? And I understand maybe like the front of you want to be at the front of the plane because it's easier for you to get there. Again, make sure that you book soon enough in advance. Like I don't really know what to say. It feels like, it's kind of the thing where you give a mouse a cookie and they, they want more and more and more and more. And so I am very curious to see where things go, because it's bizarre, right? Because it's like Southwest has been the most accommodating to people that the NAAFA kind of represents, but the NAAFA is being the most like aggressive towards Southwest because now they feel like they're not going to be as accommodating. I don't know. I think that it's very interesting. I wanted to share kind of both of the different perspectives in this video and, share kind of how I feel. I would love to know what y'all think, especially if you're someone that travels even more than me. I would love to know what you think about the whole policy changes and if you agree, disagree. Do you agree with me with the whole, buying the extra seat before? I don't know. I feel like that seems to probably work the most. I think if you're on top of it, it's not going to cause too many issues. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, and I'll see you next time.